On June 1st, 1937, Amelia Earhart took off from Oakland, California on an eastbound flight around the world.
Wait,
it was her second attempt to become...
You're really going to talk about Amelia Earhart right now? We all know that she died, right? We don't really know much about what happened to her, but, like, she died.
the first pilot
I hope the rest of this video isn't about that.
ever to circumnavigate the globe. She, along with her flight navigator Fred Noonan, flew to Miami and then down to South America, across the Atlantic to Africa, and then east to India and Southeast Asia. The pair reached Lae, New Guinea on June 29th. A couple days later, on July 2nd, Earhart and Noonan would depart Lae.
She's like one of the few like famous women in history, and like so of course she's going to be one of the ones you learn about.
And they would make their way to...
They found out what happened? They did?
Tiny Howland Island, which was their next refueling stop, but they would never arrive.
As far as I know, she sort of like disappeared over some mountains, and they just assumed that she crashed in the mountains, but they never like found it. Just listen? All right.
Earhart was trying to accomplish at the time was such a big deal. And so when they disappeared, it was heartbreaking, and it made international headlines, and this huge search is launched for them, but they can't find them. And after 2 weeks, they officially declared they were lost at sea and most likely dead. 3 years later, and 350 miles away from Howland Island, which was the island Earhart and Noonan were trying to get to before they vanished, a British scientist was on this tiny little uninhabited island called Niku Maroro, and they made a startling discovery.
How's that chicken?
They found
an
incomplete skeleton next to what looked like the remains of a campfire. And their skeleton was kind of torn all over the place, like they had been ripped limb from limb. Because of Niku Maroro's proximity to Howland Island, everybody speculated that this has got to be the body of either Amelia Earhart or Noonan. The bones were sent to 2 doctors in Fiji, and they unfortunately said, no, this isn't Earhart or Noonan, this is somebody else. So those bones were ultimately disposed of because no one could claim them or knew who they were, everybody just kind of forgot about it until 2017, when a forensic anthropologist decided to manually re-examine the measurements of the bones that were taken off of Niku Maroro Island and compare them to real measurements of Amelia Earhart. And they discovered that clearly those doctors in Fiji had made a mistake, because the measurements of these bones match Amelia Earhart almost exactly. So researchers go back to Niku Maroro Island, and they go to the area where these bones were found near that campfire, and they look around and they find a couple 1930s era bottles, glass bottles.
Oh shit, imagine literally getting stuck on an island.
And one of them is a Freckle Cream, and Amelia Earhart had lots of freckles, and she liked to use Freckle Cream to cover them up. She was kind of famous for doing that.
Wow.
And so they found that Freckle Cream on this island near bones that look like they belong to Amelia Earhart. So while some scientists are putting their energy into confirming that yes, those bones were Amelia Earhart. We don't have the bones, but we can show you with the measurements.
Castaways is a golden movie.
True. There's another picture that apparently shows the landing gear of her plane off of Niku Maroro Island. So there's some people that are working on that angle, and there's another group of scientists and researchers that are saying, okay, let's assume that that really was Amelia Earhart. Let's figure out what happened to her once she got to Niku Maroro Island. And the
Wilson!
leading theory is horrifying. Although Niku Maroro Island is uninhabited by people, it is inhabited by one of the scariest creatures on the planet, the coconut crab. They're 3 feet long, they can carry at least 6 times their body weight, and they use their pincers that are as strong as a lion's jaw to rip open coconuts, which is their main source of food. But coconuts are not the only thing they eat. They'll also eat pigs, they'll eat each other, they'll even eat themselves. And they're prolific climbers because they need to get up to get to the coconuts.
What do you mean
but in some parts of the world, they use their climbing ability to climb up and grab birds and break their wings with their pincers and then drag them into their underground burrows where they will eat them too. The few researchers and scientists that have gone out to Niku Maroro Island have said at night, thousands of these crabs will emerge from their underground burrows and they'll go looking for food. And they have a really keen sense.
I wouldn't fucking go to that place without a goddamn shotgun ready.
And they can smell blood. So when one of the crabs goes up and grabs a bird and starts ripping it apart, the thousands of others will come charging over and swarm the bird because they've smelled the blood, and they'll rip it to pieces, and they'll all try to get in on the action. And so the theory goes, Earhart and Noonan are making their way to Howland Island, they get off track somehow, and they wind up crash landing 350 miles away on Niku Maroro Island on one of the reefs. Noonan probably dies on impact, and Earhart, who's badly wounded and probably bleeding, she gets onto the the island and she makes her way up to that area where that campfire was found. And for some amount of time, Earhart is able to survive off of whatever she had on her in those glass bottles. But in her weakened state and bleeding, at some point she probably attracted the coconut crabs who one night came out and swarmed her, ripped her to pieces, and ate her. Today, Niku Island is only inhabited by the coconut crabs is protected land under the Republic of Kiribati. And so if you want to go, you have to get express permission from the Republic of Kiribati, and they send someone to go with you. And there's no airport on the island, so you have to land on a separate island and then ride to Niku on a boat. But you have to pass through Cyclone Alley, which means you can only travel there at certain parts of the year, and even then it's incredibly dangerous. So that's gonna do it, guys. I hope you enjoyed today's stories.
That is literally like the place the place that like every spider-fearing guy on the planet, like, oh my god, imagine giant fucking crabs. Which are fucking spiders, let's be real. They're giant spiders. Giant fucking crabs that have the strength to swarm and kill you. I'm sure it made for good eating the first time.